Get ready. It's Blunt Force Truth Prime Chuck.
You know, everybody is talking about Uranium One and the dossier, the Trump dossier that was the phony dossier that was passed out by the CIA and the FBI when they took it to Trump in the Oval Office when he was first elected president, and showed him what things could be like out there if he wasn't careful. And of course, then the story broke from BuzzFeed, and the dossier was put out as a legitimate piece of investigative work on Trump. We all know that history. Well, while this is going on, Uranium One has been going on since 2009, and people have reported on it, talked about it, but nobody's really, delved into it. It's a very interesting, convoluted story, and we're in the middle of something here that is just explosive, and yet I hesitate because every time you're in the middle of something that is explosive with Hillary Clinton or her husband Bill, or the Clintons and just total whatever they're involved in, it's always very slippery, and they never really seem to be nailed down. So let me walk you through a little bit of this. First, the dossier. The dossier was paid for, we found out now, by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. And apparently, there may have been a Republican donor or someone like that who also contributed to the collection of this dossier through a British intelligence officer, and he went to Moscow and put this thing together. And it's nasty. It's just a nasty piece of work. And of course, Trump at that point said, look, I've never even met Vladimir Putin. I don't know anything about him. I didn't do this. Everybody in Washington knew that it had no validity. No one would run with it for months and months until the CIA and the FBI presented it to Trump. And then it became newsworthy, so they ran with it and purported it to be true when in fact there was no truth involved in it at all. So who did it? Apparently the DNC and Hillary Clinton did it, and an outside Republican donor. Fusion GPS has their fingerprints all over this, obviously, because they're the ones that did it. But they took the fifth. They don't want to be held accountable for anything. They don't want to be, So here's what's happening. Congress is now, which, if you're like me, you have no faith in a congressional investigation. But anyway, they're going for GPS's records. Now they're going to try to find out their financial records and who contributed to this, and who knows what will happen. God only knows, and it could be Trump will be out of office by the time they get to the end of it, because that's just how Congress works. So that's one thing that's going on that's explosive and interesting. But it's also the thing that connected through the mainstream media and the Praetorian Guard connected Trump to Russia, when in fact it was all bogus. So far, Mueller doesn't have anything that we're aware of that connects Trump to Russia and any collusion. We do have a piece of collusion with the DNC and Hillary Clinton. Now it gets even more interesting, because Manafort, who was head of Trump's election committee or whatever the heck he did with Trump, also was connected to the Podestas, John and his brother, who headed Hillary's bid for the presidency. So Manafort worked for a few years, apparently, or if not years, a few months, representing Ukrainian interests to the Podesta brothers. I mean, this just gets insane, more insane as you go. So he's promoting the Russians to Podesta, who's handling Hillary, who's not colluding but is colluding, and blaming Trump of colluding. I mean, it is just a three-ring circus, all right? So I guess Manafort is in the middle of a mess. He's both Republican, Democrat. He's a universion of a unibomber. So now we got that going on. In the midst of all of this, in 2009, I guess right around 2009, Russia is trying to get their hands on as much uranium as they possibly can throughout the world and control it. much like the Hunt brothers tried to control silver at one time and just, gather up all the silver in the world. So the Obama administration, in the midst of a reset, decides that they can maybe give 20% through a shell company in Canada, 20% of our uranium to Russia, and they can control that. But they can't take it out of the country. They can only control, the mining and the profits and all that kind of stuff. So involved in this is Podesta, John Podesta, and his brother. Also involved in this is Hillary and Bill Clinton. And Hillary, right around the time this thing takes place through the State Department, of course, she said she knew nothing about it. I mean, how could Obama and Hillary know nothing about the Russians glomming on to 20% of our uranium? And the Obama administration gave it to them through 9 agencies. They all signed off on it. I mean, there's a good idea. So the deal is that Bill goes over to Russia, gets $500,000 as he gives a speech to a bank that's supporting the Uranium One deal. They push through the Uranium One deal. The guys at Uranium One in Canada give $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, this so stinks. And it's been going on. This has been going on for years, that it's just unbelievable. But here's the really interesting part about it. The FBI, apparently, under Mueller, who is now the prosecutor for Trump, the FBI under Mueller did an investigation on this Uranium One deal. And apparently they covered it up. So Comey is involved, Mueller is involved, the Clintons are involved, the Podestas are involved, Rod Rosenstein, who is assistant district attorney under Sessions, is involved. I mean, it is just a 3-ring circus. Now, here's the capper on all of it. Not only are all of these people who are investigating Trump involved in this nefarious Uranium One deal, but they're the ones who are investigating it. They're the ones who covered it up. So here's the deal. It's going to be interesting because I think that Sessions, even though he recused himself from the Russia thing to do with the election, I think Sessions has the ability to get a special prosecutor to investigate the special prosecutor who's investigating the collusion of Trump with the Russians for about the election. If that makes any sense to you at all, I'm trying to connect the dots, and hopefully I did it semi-effectively, because I tell you what, it is so confusing and so disastrous in its outcome, I think. But the one thing I want to leave you with is this. No one has ever been able to nail the Clintons down. The mainstream media covers them. The Democratic Party covers them. They are just untouchable. And this is going to be very interesting to see if that wall of defense can be broken down finally, and they can be held accountable for the deeds and the misdeeds that they've done to the American people, because this has nothing to do with anything other than the American people who they're supposed to represent. It's us. So we'll see. Thanks for listening. I hope you're up to date on this, and we'll see how it all turns out.